Welcome to Payton Speaks. This is January 1st, 2018, and first video of the year, and we're discussing why the social justice warriors will undoubtedly do themselves in. We have an article from Breitbard, which is linked to another article to the Times. UK NHS patient asks for female nurse for cervical smear. Gets a tattooed trans man with stubble. I'm not judging anyone, but with that being said, I'll continue on. A woman who requested a female nurse for an intimate procedure was given an obvious male member of the staff with stubbles and tattoos who claimed to be transsexual. Once again, that doesn't really matter. I don't care about this. The real issue comes in the fact that this was in the UK. And if you're not familiar, in the UK, treating people of, say, transsexual or homosexual or anything like that, the LGBTQ, whatever the hell it all is, you can be charged with a hate crime. The patient is fortunate to have received an apology, as police guidance could easily have allowed the trust to report her complaint as an anti-trans hate crime, or at least a non-crime hate incident. So they apologized to the woman. You would think that's that, but you'd be wrong, because you can always come back and turn this woman in. Being an article in the Times and Breitbart, it is undoubtedly in the British media, so there's a very good chance that a special interest group will feel that they need to come forward and help this poor woman out. So she still has a lot to worry about because they still can come back. I'll continue on. The National Health Service NHS patient said that she was embarrassed and distressed when summoned by a nurse with an obvious male appearance, close cropped hair, a male facial appearance and voice, and a large number of tattoos and facial stubble to carry out a cervical smear. This is from the Times. When she pointed out what she thought was a mistake, the nurse told her, "My gender is not male, I am transsexual." Okay, carrying on. Speaking after the examination, which she ultimately decided to abandon, the patient said it was weird where somebody says to you, "My gender is not male," and you think, well, what does that even mean? You are clearly a man. In a formal letter of complaint, she objected that people who are not comfortable about this are presented as bigots, and this is kind of how I was made to feel about it. So, this transsexual male, it's a man, I don't care what you say, it's a man, shows up to give this woman her cervical smear, and basically she feels uncomfortable and stops the procedure, and when she pushes, to get more information, because clearly the man looks like a man, she's made to feel like a bigot, and ultimately she can be charged for making a complaint. So she needs to be real careful. So also, this incident raises concerns about the governing Tory party proposed Gender Recognition Act, spearheaded by Lesbian Education Secretary Justine Greening, which seeks to demedicalize the gender transition process and allow men to legally change gender with a simple self-declaration. The reason I read that part of the article is because it made me think of a UFC fighter. Yes, UFC fighter Fallon Fox. It's an interesting quote from Joe Rogan on his podcast where he says, and I quote, "She's calling herself a woman, but I tend to disagree. And she used to be a man, but now she's a transgender, which is the official term that means you've gone through with it, right? And she wants to be able to fight women in the MMA. I say, no fucking way. I say, if you had a dick at one point in time, you also have the bone structure that comes along with having a dick. You have bigger hands, you have bigger shoulder joints. You're a fucking man. That's a man, okay? You can't have that. That's, I don't care if you don't have a dick anymore. So the reason I bring this article up is because basically they're trying to make it so what is her name? It's Justine Greening. Yes, Justine Greening is basically trying to make it so that these men can be allowed to basically just say that they're women regardless if they're not. Which ultimately I don't care like what they do, but I do care that you're having men run masquerade. Well, so, like I'm not saying all of them. So you're having some men masquerade as women to maybe put themselves in situations where they end up having to deal with the opposite sex in an inappropriate manner. Something we'd never let any other normal, any other non-trans man do. You're not going to let a regular guy just go into the ladies. You're not going to let just a regular guy go into the changing room with a bunch of women. It's not going to happen. So if he self-identifies as a woman, then it is suddenly okay. No, it's not. It isn't, because reasons, I guess. No. The NHS replied, and I quote, "We apologize to this patient for the recording error, and because that the staff member accepted they didn't manage the situation appropriately." I'll mention that. Trust policy is to consider seriously all requests for clinicians of a particular gender, the trust said in a statement. So, basically, if you live in England, if you were this woman and you made this complaint, and if the hospital decided to turn you into the cops for your possible hate speech towards transgender people, she would be going to jail, not unlike these Facebook posters and YouTubers and Twitter people who post their opinions and end up in jail. She didn't post her opinion. She basically called a trans man a man. She called a spade, and that would have landed her in jail. This is why I believe that they ultimately will destroy themselves. The help from the skeptic community probably is immense, but the fact that they've enacted so many broad-reaching policies and regulations and laws will ultimately be their downfall, because people eventually are going to get tired of being called homophobes, transphobes, racists, when all they're doing is pointing out the fact that as a woman, I don't want a man reaching up inside me to take a smear. I would prefer another woman to do the procedure. And, you can't blame her. And maybe that's why they haven't gone after this lady yet, or maybe I'm just speaking too soon and they will, is the fact that it's a woman complaining about a man. Like I said, this is January 1st, it's the first video of the year, and I hope to be putting out a few videos a week. This is probably pretty bad quality, but it's like I've done a few videos for gaming and stuff like that, so I'm trying to work really hard on improving the quality of this. Links will be in the description, so you can read the article yourself if I'm too incoherent, which wouldn't surprise me. I will also link Joe Rogan's little quote here. Thank you for listening to the first installment of Peyton Speaks, and hopefully the more I do this, it won't be so bad when I read out loud. It's not very good.